sister location is a return to form, back to spending 5 nights, well, usually more, trying to survive being locked in a building with killer animatronics. I've always heard this was one of the best games in the series, but is it? Does it really capture the horror the originals had? Well, without any further ado, let's dive straight in. Sister location marks a huge shift for Fnaf and deviates a lot from what we know. It changes the setting to this industrial metallic underground warehouse, and instead of repeating one mechanic each night getting harder and harder, here there's unique events on each night. The first night, however, doesn't really have any of them. Night 1 just lets you get used to how the day is supposed to go, which makes anything out of the ordinary later on creep you out since you know what it's supposed to be. You start by going down an elevator, crawling through a vent for some reason, then you check on Belor and Funtime Foxy, and if they're not there, you'll have to give them a slight shock just to get them back on stage. That's definitely not going to end up hurting us at all. After that, you call through another vent to Baby before doing the exact same thing with her. But she never shows up. Well, this section is somewhat interesting, but I think it shows a lot of missed potential. We only ever get to check on a character exactly when we're told, and only get to zap them the exact amount we're told. I wish we had more freedom here. These vent sections are also slightly annoying since you can't die in them, though if you're playing this for the first time, you don't know that, so maybe they're a bit scarier for them, but not for me. I guess what I get for knowing way too much about these games than I really should. After night 1, we actually get to the eventful nights, and each one has a different set of challenges, or I suppose you can even call them minigames. Like night 2 has you hide under a table in Baby's area and hold the door shut so the animatronics can't kill you. Before then, having to go through a section with Belor and then Funtime Foxy. These two sections specifically show the problems with this unique night's idea. Because you have them for a fraction of the time you do in the previous games, you rarely get to know each mechanic nearly as well. And because the game wants it to get harder, you'll likely be thrown into night 4 or 5 of a minigame that you haven't even played yet, which can feel really annoying. Night 2 is a good example of this, and also shows some of my stupidity. One section has you bypass Belor, like I already mentioned. Belor is blind and can only hear you. Because of this, you have to listen to when she gets close, and only move when you don't hear her. It's actually pretty creepy, especially when she walks right in front of you at one point. It's really tense. However, due to the way that my PC speakers are set up, I only get audio from the right, meaning if she's on my left, I just wouldn't hear her, so I'd move and... which means I found this game quite hard. Eventually, I found the problem and wore headphones so I could actually hear her, but then it was like 50 times scarier since I was wearing headphones and they make everything scarier. This is an example of a pretty good idea that wouldn't work as a whole game, but does as just one section of one night like it does here. Right after you have a minigame with Funtime Freddy, and this is an example of a pretty bad one. You have to open this panel to fix the power to the building, but also need to play a noise to lure Freddy away. However, I have no idea how long you can be in the menu before he jump scares you. This could cost Fear of the Unknown, but if you die once, you have to go back through Belor Gallery. Because you have to redo other sections to get back, and the amount of things you have to do is so long, this gets quite annoying. I could do some tests to see how long I would last before he jump scares me, but then I would lose a lot of time getting back, and that just made it annoying. I think they could just tweak this a bit, and then it would be much better. The minigames here vary wildly from quality, entertainment, and scariness, which makes sense, I guess. But because you only play each game once, that's both good and bad. Good because if you don't like it, well, it'll be over soon. But bad because that means each one will have less attention being given to it, meaning they'll probably be designed worse anyway. Night 3 has an okay segment with Funtime Foxy and a really cool close-up repair section with Funtime Freddy. This Freddy section is a cool idea and it's pretty fun. However, if you died like I did, you have to redo the Funtime Foxy section. It's not hard, it's just slow. This game really needed more checkpoints. Night 4 is the most like a regular Fnaf game where you're stuck in one spot until time runs out. However, unlike other Fnaf games, the main gameplay loop sucks. You have to survive for 3 minutes inside a spring lock suit while men arenas are climbing up the sides. It is so annoying to do, and it took me literal hours. The night even has an opening cutscene with Belor, and if you die, it does skip most of the cutscene, which is nice, but if you quit and come back, you'll have to sit through it all over again. So when I did take breaks from my hour-long attempts, I would just leave the game on since I didn't want to sit through it again. This is one of the most annoying nights in the game. It takes hours. This game really just doesn't respect your time at all. It's not even just that section, it's the whole game. You have this, I don't know, boss, companion, whatever it is, called the hand unit, and he tells you what to do sometimes. So many times you'll just have to sit there and wait for him to give you access to something or get through dialogue that you may have already listened to.
Let's turn on the light and see if Belora is on stage. Press the blue button on the elevated keypads to your left.
The elevator at the beginning can even take a while, even after hand unit stopped talking. Why does it take so long? Okay, Wyatt, think positive. What are some positives? This game also shakes with the atmosphere of the franchise quite a bit. First thing a lot of you may see is that everything looks futuristic. Does this mean it's in the future? Who knows? Well, I do, but that's not the point. All the animatronics have individual faceplates that open independently, which looks really cool. How they shake when the animatronics move, or how they purposely open when they jump scare you to, I don't know, kill you worse or something. And even in the repair section with Funtime Freddy, they're even used to make a mini jump scare. They're really cool. However, are they scary? Well, as I see it, FNAF animatronics can be broken down into 3 categories of scary: uncanny, dangerous, and contradiction. The original animatronics were creepy because they looked uncanny. The toys, however, weren't actually that creepy, and it just felt like a contradiction to have something that looked so safe not be safe. And the nightmares just look dangerous. FNAF sister location kind of fits multiple. Their shiny exoskeletons make them look clean, and everyone knows that clean things can't be dangerous. Some people could say they look uncanny, but I've been looking at these characters for so long, none of the designs straight up scare me anymore. Except Springtrap, he's great. So they might be uncanny, but not to me. However, their opening faceplates do make them look more dangerous, and learning what they were made for makes them even scarier. So overall, they actually look really cool, but not as scary as some of you might have hoped. However, the designs alone aren't the only thing meant to scare you. Because this game has heavily scripted segments, it can also add different creepy things on each night. Like for instance, whenever you call an event to baby, a computer says,
"Motion trigger, circus gallery vent."
This is pretty obviously referring to you. However, in night 2, when you're waiting for a hand unit to return, you hear,
"Motion trigger, entryway vent."
Which is really creepy, knowing that something that's not you is moving around the vents. This pays off when the animatronic actually comes and tries to kill you, and you have to hide under the desk, which I've already mentioned before. However, right afterwards, you hear something shaking in the vent as you leave, which tries to scare you once again. These kinds of freaky things happen a lot in the game, and a lot of it actually works really well. Night 3 ends in a mandatory jump scare. You have to get jump scared to move on to night 4. If you didn't know that happened, it would really catch you off guard, especially since this section was super easy. However, one of the creepiest things in the game was the side area with Baby. You're told to go to Funtime Foxy's room, but not to go anywhere else.
There is no need to check on Baby tonight. Please refrain from entering unauthorized areas.
He specifically says that, which I find annoying. I wish he didn't bring up that you could go off course, making those who found it actually feel smart for finding something. Anyway, you go to Baby's room and she explains to you the first day she was alive, essentially.
Did you know that I was on stage once?
She says she was in a pizzeria, entertaining children, keeping track of how many there are.
I would always count the children. I'm not sure why.
But then she says,
I couldn't move. At least, not until she stepped closer. There was screaming for a moment, but only for a moment.
This is actually terrifying to think about.
Then other children rushed in again, but they couldn't hear her over the sounds of their own excitement.
This game really is quite scary in a lot of areas, and events like this really remind you that this series is about murdering children. Yeah, these games are scarier than a lot of us give it credit for. I mean, one time Baby just calls you a dummy.
It's because, dummy.
Which is probably supposed to feel threatening, but actually comes off as quite funny since a killer robot is using a middle school insult. But other than that, yeah, it's pretty creepy. However, being scary isn't this game's only goal. It came out after FNAF World, and a lot of that game's DNA bleeds over into this one. Sister Location tries to blend FNAF World's humor and FNAF's horror. Because of this, jokes and funny moments are placed all throughout the game, and that could be a bad thing depending on who you ask. However, I think it's used well enough to not get too annoying, and I think it can stand right alongside the scary bits. I mean, I already went over how I'm not always the best at horror with games like FNAF 4, so yeah, I like humor. However, if the jokes the game tries to tell aren't great, it'll just make the game worse, and the jokes are actually pretty good. This game adds so many funny and memorable moments, no wonder people loved this game when it came out. We have the running joke that the keypad is not working, so the hand unit has to keep filling in whatever it thinks you want. This could get old, but each and every time it does the joke, it has a new punchline, and it's always funny. The first one gives you a pretty comedic name.
Welcome, Eggs Benedict.
The second offers to play music, which actually sounds pretty good.
Thank you for selecting Casual Bongos.
There's a small segment where hand unit changes his voice to,
Thank you for choosing Angsty Teen.
and then he just talks like that for a while, which is really enjoyable.
The elevator stopped. You know the routine.
We're even given the classic,
Exotic Butters.
which becomes even funnier when you go back home and see them sitting on your TV. Other jokes are just as good, like in Blower Gallery when you're trying to listen quietly, and hand unit,
It seems you are taking a long time. Please proceed as quickly and as quietly as possible.
you could argue this gets rid of the fear, but I don't. Him being loud is not only startling, but also makes you worried that Blower either knows you're in there or now knows where you're at or something like that, because you have no idea what he's done. Well, at least I think it's funny. Also, after every night, you go home and watch your favorite TV show.
All of that and more happening now.
These are actually quite enjoyable, not only because they were originally unexpected and funny that they even exist, but they're also a nice breather when you can just relax between nights. Some people even try to claim that there's lore significance here, but I I don't know. Oh, but yeah, with that said, there's still lore, and it's quite interesting. But I won't even start going into all that, because since FNAF World, the lore became a lot more complicated. Well, technically, because it started with FNAF 4, but I don't know, it doesn't matter. I will mention some of it, though. The game opens up with potentially quite a big reveal.
With all due respect, those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton.
Afton was a character in the books, and now he's officially in the games as well. That is pretty big. We actually have a name for the purple guy. We also get to hear from his daughter each night, which could sound cute or creepy depending on who you ask.
Didn't you make her just for me?
We even get a new death minigame, and this one is actually a game. Previous minigames just have you look around and see what happens. Here, you actually just jump around and complete a mission, I guess you can call it. Kinda like FNAF 3's minigames, but better. You need to feed cupcakes to all these different kids and need to find the best route so each and every one can be happy. And you'll need to do so before time runs out. And if you do it correctly, at the end, you get an ice cream cone. It is possible to figure out how to feed all the kids, but the last ice cream cone has you go back all the way to the start and give it away. I even knew this before I started playing, and I still failed multiple times. I don't know how the game expects you to figure this out. First, I went to the very start of the level and even tried shooting it, and it didn't work. I looked it up and it said you had to spam to use it. I tried again and still no. In fact, you need to place it down a distance from the wall. However, how are you supposed to figure that out? Why this distance? Why? I don't get it. It's not that hard to do, and it didn't take too long, so I still had fun. However, going from area to area, seeing different numbers of children reminded me of Baby's monologue, though I don't think the number of kids is 1-to-1. However, the ending is exactly the same. A kid got ate. This moment has so many connections. It's so cool. Baby's eyes went from blue to green, like the little girl's. It's kind of like her monologue, which she says is her first and only day. Did her pizzeria get closed because of this? Afton's daughter wanted to be Baby, but wasn't allowed to. Was it because Afton knew how dangerous she was? Is this Afton's daughter? It kind of looks like she ate the girl with a mouth in her stomach, just like how the nightmares look. Did the crying child see these events, which is what traumatized him to dream this? It's so cool and terrifying. I love it. We even hear the girl's last words, which is the cherry on top of this horror perfection. However, after all that, it's finally time to go to the ending, or at least the first ending. You enter the facility and are told to ignore any technicians you see.
Please be aware that there are still 2 technicians on site today. Try to avoid interfering with their work if possible.
And, you see them alright. You then have a minigame with Baby, where she tells you to go to the scooping room, and you trust her because why wouldn't you? I mean, she gave you advice earlier to save your life when hand units advice would have killed you. Why did she try to save you just to then trap you in a spring-lock suit just a couple nights later? I don't know, but still, doesn't matter. In the scooping room, you see Innard. Innard is the combination of all the animatronics into one being. It's even wearing the mask from a previous room that's suspiciously missing on the final night. Well, they use a scooping machine that's usually used to, I don't know, remove endoskeletons? Not exactly sure, but they use it on you, removing all of your organs. Yeah, leaving nothing but a skin suit that Innard then wears to be disguised as you. The end. What? I love this ending because it's so creepy. As a kid, I hated the ending since it made me feel uncomfortable, but now it's just creepy and I love it. There's even a secret ending where instead of going to the scooping room, you instead sneak off to a side room. Here, you basically play a FNAF 1 remake, but with Innard. You even got your doors back. It's a really interesting idea, but it's really hard. Innard can get to you through 3 doors, and you need to keep an eye out to see which one he's at. He does make a noise when he moves, and this could lead to a cool challenge. You see where he's at on the cameras, and you learn how he can move from each location. Then you count the noises that Innard makes to try to predict where he is. This could be cool. Like when he's at the far end of the hall, he could get closer, further, or move to the closet. You could take your luck and just guess, or just check so you won't die, but use more power. That could be fun, but there's just one problem with it. Sometimes he just doesn't make noise. Why? This means if you hear something, you need to check to see where he moved, and even if you don't hear something, you still need to check to see where he moved. This is just annoying. Combine that with having very limited power and bam, super hard night. But we couldn't just have a hard night. No, we had to have an infuriating one. So when you die, you start back over from the center of the building. This means you have to go back to Funtime Auditorium, listen to hand unit speech again, slowly type in Baby's code, which can kill you, causing you to start over again, then wait for her to move by, then walk to the back room, then you can fight Innard. This is way too much, and it's annoying to do repeatedly, especially for a hard challenge. Why did they do this? I spent days spending night after night trying to grind this and beat it, and I just can't. So you know what? I'm done. I don't need to get this ending. It doesn't matter. Anyways, moving on. After the game had been out for a while, Scott did add a custom night mode. But how would that work? All the nights in the game are completely custom. Oh, well, he made a completely new game with completely new mechanics, which is awesome. But is it fun? Well, I wouldn't know, since you can only play it after you beat Innard Night. I hate this game so much. Assuming you do be entered somehow and you unlock Custom Night, if you beat a Custom Night preset, you receive an animation featuring you walking down the street. However, each animation has you get sicker and sicker till eventually you just look like a corpse. Then you barf up entered, meaning you were just dead the entire time, slowly rotting as entered wore you. That is pretty creepy, and it would be strange if it turned out that you weren't even dead at all. Huh? Okay, yep, Scott's gone mad. So somehow you're alive, and purple, how? Well, you're probably a robotic child recreated by Athens to replace a real child who died, and you, a robot, are still able to feel emotions because of Remnant, which somehow makes you a humanoid robot corpse that's still able to be alive even though you have literally no internal organs. What? Okay, everything I just said sounds crazy, and it kind of is, but I still really enjoy it. Yes, it's sci-fi, and you may not like that for the direction of Fnaf, but I think it works just fine. And it's revealed a lot slower in the book, so it's not so jarring if you read them. I didn't, but that's not the point. Overall, Fnaf's location was, I don't know. I really liked the humor and the fear and the characters and some of the minigame. But when the vast majority of my time in the game is spent grinding out Night 4, then the minigame, then Inner Night, you're really left with a sour taste in your mouth. It's a fun game, but with the flaws that are way too big to just ignore. If they fixed them, the game would be much, much better, but I doubt this game is getting an update anytime soon. I think the unique nights were a cool idea to keep the game fresh, but it wasn't perfect. Maybe it could be better if you went back to the old style where every night gets progressively harder. Well, it's kind of what we got. Wait, what is this? Is this seriously the next game? Huh? Yep, this is about more what I was expecting. FNAF Pizza Simulator will have to wait. I've spent far too much time playing FNAF recently, grinding out the internet, and I just need a bit of a break from the series. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and please do tell me what you thought about FNAF's Dislocation. But for now, that's all I have to say, so thank you all for watching, and goodbye. Hey, so the next FNAF video might be a while, like I said. I keep sitting down to play it, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play it and then make a video, but then every time I sit down, I just don't want to play the game, and I'm not gonna force myself, so it might be a while. It's already been like a couple weeks since I played Dislocation, so I've had a break, but I want a longer break. I just don't want to play the game yet. I will eventually, and eventually I will make the video, but for now, nah. So I'll see you when that video comes out, I guess, or maybe earlier. I don't know how many videos you watch. Goodbye.